a Universal Associate Approach webinar brought to you by FMSI. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chad Davis, Senior Vice President of Marketing at FMSI, and I'll be the moderator for today's call. Today we're going to open things up by talking about the current state. We're then going to move on and talk about the impact of traditional branch staff approaches. After that, we're going to discuss Universal Associate model descriptions. We're then going to take a closer look at one of FMSI's clients, Jeanne Credit Union, with Melissa Lemire. We're going to review a couple management tips. And at the very end, we're going to have an open discussion, including a Q&A session. You will have the opportunity to ask questions throughout the webinar. On the right side of your screen on the control panel, there is an area for you to type questions. We will answer questions immediately following the presentation. Today's speakers include Gordon Williams, the FMSI EVP of Business Development, Melissa Lemire, Jeanne Credit Union's branch manager, and myself as the moderator. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Gordon Williams, who will be taking you through the first part of today's presentation. Gordon?
Thank you very much, Chad, and thanks to everyone for spending a little time with us this afternoon. To begin our conversations, we'll spend just a few minutes framing why this topic is of such importance to many organizations today. If you take a look at the screen, you will see a couple different trend charts that tell a story about what has taken place around the cost of service delivery in retail branches over the last 20 years. According to the FMSI Tellerline study, there's been a 90% increase in salary and benefit rates during this time period, but 133% increase in the unit labor cost per transaction since 1992. While the increase in the salary and benefit rates is something organizations have little control over, there is a lot of control tied to the unit labor cost per transaction. This might sound counterintuitive, but keep in mind that during this time period we've seen the greatest technological advances in transaction processing and automation. What used to take 2 employees now only needs 1. The problem is that organizations have not transformed their workforce at the same rate that transaction reduction and redirection has taken place. Another area of concern for many management teams is around low wallet shares when evaluating their clients. If you notice on the screen, the product penetration for the average account holder is below 20% for 6 out of 10 popular products, according to a recent CFI group study. What does this tell you as a manager? It appears that there are incredible opportunities to grow your relationships with your current account holders, but it is imperative to have the right people that are able to have the right conversations when opportunities present themselves. There's also a drastic gap in annual revenue between fully engaged account holders and actively disengaged account holders. According to Gallup's U.S. retail banking study, a fully engaged client averages 6.28 products, while an actively disengaged client averages 5.14 products. While the difference in products between the two categories is not drastic, that fully engaged customer represents an additional $400 a year in revenue. Small improvements in wallet share can lead to real revenue opportunities, but again, it's critical to have the right employees with the right skills in order to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves. This leads us right into the Universal Associate model. Universal Associates are staff members that can perform multiple roles, including serving as both tellers and lobby sales representatives. 2 major advantages of the Universal model are that they are able to reduce the branch labor cost by consolidating the need of multiple roles to handle demand into fewer employees. At the same time, they can help you to improve sales and service by increasing the opportunities account holders are spending with highly trained and more knowledgeable employees. The Universal Associate Program may or may not be a good fit for every one of your branches throughout your institution, but with a significant amount of potential, it's a worthwhile exercise for you to explore. Once you've gone through the right exercises and have been able to quantify that a universal model brings a financial benefit to your organization, there are 2 critical steps for you to execute upon. First is finding the right employees for the position. Traditional transactional tellers may or may not transition well to a universal role. There are plenty of these employees that have embraced opportunities for growth and additional skill sets, while there are also plenty that have pushed back on management and shared that a sales position is not something they signed up for. Always remember that they have a right to feel that way, but you also have the right to run your business as you need to. There is potential for turnover in this process. Second, knowing how and when to schedule your employees. The management of this workforce is critical to support them in knowing when they need to be scheduled to work, but also when to complete certain tasks, skills, and other responsibilities. When you are looking to find the right Universal Associates, identifying internal employees who are good Universal Associate candidates is the ideal scenario. You can avoid costly recruiting and hiring expenses and inject a strong morale booster for your branch staff, most of which will appreciate the opportunity to earn higher paying jobs with more responsibility. However, the hard truth, like we talked about, for many internal candidates is they are not a good fit for the Universal Associate position. You may have to hire outside your institution to find the right candidates. Other than following the typical hiring practices, it can be beneficial to target candidates who can be versatile. Individuals with a history in sales and financial institution customer service is a plus. Some of our customers have had success hiring college students for part-time roles and then defining a career path for them upon graduation. Understanding when and where you may need Universal Associates by sophisticated forecasts can be the difference in implementing a successful program and an unprofitable one. The report that you see here on the slide, provided to all Omnix FMSI clients, provides detailed analysis on the time of day per branch where specific FTEs are required. Notice how the green refers to the transactional demand for the office, while the blue represents the sales and service demand. So many organizations have found success in these management tools to support their branches in developing a workforce that is in line with what their clients actually need. One of those organizations that has had so much success is Jeanne Credit Union, and I will now turn the presentation over to Melissa Lemire to share her story. Melissa?
Thank you. I'm Melissa Lemire from Jeanne Credit Union. I'm the branch manager here at the Lakeview Ave branch. I've been at the credit union for 18 years. The credit union is the fourth oldest credit union in the country. We've been around since 1912. Our headquarters are in Lowell, Mass. We're $1 billion in assets, have 7 locations, and over 70,000 members. Next slide. In 2011, we started using the FMSI scheduling tool. We started using this to help us better handle our staffing on the Telus side. Since then, there was 30% improvement on the teleline. It did reduce labor costs, and then in the last 5 months, we started using the scheduling tool on our platform side. Doing this, we started with universal employees for my MSRs. Next slide. Our Telus side processes over 15,000 transactions a month. We have 4 universal roles in the branches, along with several teller roles. And we also have a part-time employee that is a universal employee, which started as a part-time teller promoting up to a member service rep. So he was a universal employee while already working at the credit union. Next slide. Since our MSRs and most of our universal employees, they didn't require much training. They were tellers beforehand, moving over to the member service side. Now they're universal employees, which make them work on the platform side along with our teller line. What we had to teach them was what to actually look for, when to pull out a line or when to jump on the teller line, when they would really need to be more the universal role, which most of that came pretty natural to them. Next slide. Here shows that Nick is our universal employee. So when I did the scheduling for this, it put him on the teller line for 2 hours, where he was in the member service area most of the day, goes to lunch, and then returning as a teller. When I did this, he works 2 hours on the teller line versus just 15 minutes. So it puts him when he's really needed. And this made it better for the teller line because I didn't have to put in a whole body that whole day. I could just put him when he was needed. Next slide. To schedule the universal employees, you have to go under the roles for each employee. And when I'm here, I select that he is in the Lakeview lobby and Lakeview platform. This way, it will actually put him wherever he is needed that day versus just scheduling him on and not needed. So I can select that he will be on the teller side or the platform. Doing this again, like I said, he is for 2 hours on one of the roles. So it's not going to put him on the teller line for 15 minutes versus 2 hours. It will put him on for at least a minimum of 2 hours wherever need be. Next slide. With the universal employees, it helped our members not suffer on service. Some of our members did notice a wait, but we talked to them and we was able to tell them that we are here for them versus just being here waiting for nothing. So we are here able to help our members. Some of the things we did was, like I said, have conversations with our members. We hid empty chairs on the teller line so it didn't look like people weren't there to help. We did change our structure of our teller line a little bit to make it a little easier. But members really did not have any effect switching to the universal employees at all. They were actually probably helped more than they were before. So this way we could actually pull them out of line in member service or help them on the teller line. Next slide. Again, we properly communicated the purpose, which was that we are here for our members. So we are here to help them whenever they are needed. And using this tool, it actually gave us the times that members were coming in, and we were better to schedule our staffing versus people just scheduled because they were supposed to be here at 8:15 in the morning. Now I have people that come in at 9, some come in at 10. It all depends on the need of the branch. And we did follow the FMSI schedule. Next slide. Here it shows that we have a little bit of extra staffing. So when you look at the black line, that's the need of the branch. Anything over that is a little bit extra. So we do have times that there were extra staffing. This is where I would have my staff do scanning, balancing, coaching if that's what's necessary. So we do make sure we look at this to find out when the need is, versus just putting people on just to put them on the schedule. So we actually look at the needs.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us today, Melissa. We really appreciate that. The last portion of our webinar this afternoon is going to be spent discussing some management tips to maximize your Universal Associate performance. As has been discussed in great detail today, there's a great need to truly measure the activities that your Universal Associates are doing. If part of your objective in utilizing Universal Associates is a sales and service-ready workforce, how do you know if they truly are delivering on that? By deploying technology like FMSI's Omnix Lobby Tracker, you can quantify exactly what your associates are doing, and you'll be empowered with rich data to allow you to understand the amount of time your Universal Associates spend servicing your account holders versus actually selling new products. You can also see key insights into their individual cross-sell ratios, identifying which employees are uncovering the most opportunity for positive growth in your wallet share. Our next management tip is to focus on the service delivery with a formal process like Net Promoter Score. While there are many complex ways to measure the service your account holders experience, there are also very simple ways to serve as a barometer on the service you are delivering. One example that many organizations utilize is the Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is a simple and effective way to measure service. The simplicity of the system is that you can get great feedback on your account holder experience by simply asking one question. The simpler the survey is, the more results you will actually receive from your account holders. Once you have the right individuals in your Universal Associate pool, it's then time to put them through extensive training. you should spare no expense on making sure these employees have all the training they need. It is very common for financial institutions to outsource this training effort. According to St. Meyer and Hubbard, 90% of sales training, which includes sales management and coaching, has no lasting impact after 120 days. One of the major reasons for this is the lack of visibility or insight into the sales process and the employee activities that are driving it. In other words, most managers don't have access to all the information they need. They find themselves flying blind to the sales opportunities and threats that constantly surround them. The bottom line is that sales management and coaching are not as effective without accurate and timely insights into the sales process and the employee behaviors driving it. Reinforcement is critical for successful ongoing adoption. Our final management tip this afternoon is to make sure that your branches, the branches your account holders are using, really match the image that you want to portray with Universal Associates. The days of new offices having large banks of teller windows are in the rearview mirror for most organizations, and what lies ahead are offices that are open, welcoming, and facilitate any inquiry or service an account holder might have. The branch design on this slide is an example of a branch that has Universal Associates. These environments are more welcoming, they maximize the smaller space they take up, and they facilitate how the purpose of the branch is changing. If you have considered remodeling existing offices or evaluating a new design in your upcoming offices, feel free to reach out to FMSI and we would be happy to introduce you to some of the industry leaders in branch design. As we conclude this afternoon, please keep in mind that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to the type of workforce you need within your branches. The challenge I would put out to everyone today is to start doing the research on transactions, service activities, and sales activities to understand what your clients need from your workforce within your branch footprint. If you begin researching and find yourself at a loss on what to do next, please feel free to reach out to FMSI as we would be happy to help. Next, I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Chad, who will be taking questions from our audience. Chad?
Thanks, Gordon, and thank you very much to Melissa. Both the recording of this webinar and the PDF of this PowerPoint will be available on our website. I will email a direct link to this webpage to everyone on this call. Also, please visit our resource library for white papers, case studies, and published articles at fmsi.com/resources. All right, well, it looks like we have had a few questions come in already, and we're going to get to them here. And the first one is for Gordon. Gordon, can you assign specific tasks for Universal Associates with the FMSI scheduler?
It's a great question, Chad. The short answer is yes. When you are building your profiles into the scheduling application, one of the things that you can do within the system is actually build tasks from the ground up for each branch. So that means if you wanted to build in, outbound sales calls or dedicated service time where it's more outbound in nature, or even just other tasks to catch up on some of the more ancillary duties that come with the positions, you can schedule that time at the best time where it will not negatively impact member service.
Good stuff. All right. Next question here is for Melissa. Melissa, what are your thoughts on hiring individuals as Universal Associates from the retail industry without any banking experience?
I have actually done that before. I've hired people as tellers without any banking experience. I've also hired MSRs that are Universal employees without banking experience. I find that it's actually not a bad thing because you can train them the way you would like them to work in your location. So this way you can actually train them to be aware of the lobby, to be aware of the culture of your location. So I like the idea of hiring outside of the credit union.
Sure, makes sense. Don't have to retrain or untrain any bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. All right, next question here on the queue is for Gordon. Gordon, what would the transaction volume be for an ideal Universal Associate branch?
Well, that's a tough question. Different organizations have different opinions on what kind of volume is needed in order to truly maximize a Universal Associate environment. One of the things that we really coach our customers on is looking at some of the lower volume branches as a starting point for that. We define that as a branch that has less than 3,000 transactions in a given calendar month. What we found is that oftentimes minimum staffing requirements from a teller perspective are greater than what the transactions are currently requiring. So there's already some underutilization of resources just by design. So that's what we'd really recommend. If it's less than 3,000 transactions, that's the best starting point for Universal Associates, and above that's more of a case-by-case basis.
Makes sense. Alrighty. Next question here is for Melissa. Melissa, would you recommend offering any specific incentives to Universal Associates different to what platform employees typically have?
At the credit union, we do not offer any incentives for sales or service like that. So ours is just based on our regular salaries. We don't do anything different. I find that if they're motivated and you keep them engaged, that everything works well. I have 4 Universal employees in my location out of 14, and the others mostly are tellers, and then I have 3 that are management. So out of the 14, 7 of them are tellers, and then the rest are Universal. So I don't have anything that we offer differently. We just make sure that they are motivated and happy where they are.
Sure. So it's about finding the right people and then going from there as opposed to necessarily having incentives to get the right performance out of them.
Correct.
All right. Makes sense. All right. A couple more questions here. This next one's for Gordon. Gordon, how do I know if a part-time employee or Universal Associate is a better fit for my scheduling demands?
That's a really, really good question. I think one of the things you can look at is what are the minimum number of hours you're going to be guaranteeing that part-time resource, and really comparing that with the number of hours that you're going to need to train that employee on becoming up to speed on a particular role. I think you heard Melissa share that she has some Universal Associates that are also part-time, so the 2 roles don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. But if you really are looking at a branch that has higher transaction volume and you can leverage a maybe 15 to 20 hour a week employee, that's where a part-time employee might make more sense over a Universal Associate, but there really isn't necessarily a hard and fast rule on that front.
Great. Sounds good. All right, we'll get to one more question here, and if we don't get to your question this afternoon, we'll make sure to follow up with you on an individual basis. All right, last question here is for Gordon. Gordon, can staff see schedules and assign tasks on their smartphones with the FMSI system?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's your desire to put some technology in your staff's hands where they can basically log in through their smartphone and see when they're scheduled to work and what that shift is going to look like, that's absolutely something that's available through our scheduling application.
And I imagine that it works with iPads and different tablet devices as well?
Correct.
I can see how that could be handy. Well, all right. Well, that concludes our Q&A session and today's presentation. I want to again thank Melissa and everybody here for joining us, and I want to wish everybody a great day, and remember to go to fmsi.com/resources for additional material. All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.